evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Abington High School, the proud host of this year's 2023 Sean P. Cotter Invitational Tournament. This two-day tournament is sponsored by Abington Bank in honor of the legacy of Sean Cotter. Mr. Cotter was a dedicated, admired resident of our town who served his community as chairman of Abington Bank, as town council for the town of Abington, and as Abington Public Schools teacher. He also served as a basketball, tennis, and soccer coach for the Green Wave. Sean passed away in 2007 after a courageous battle with cancer, and this tournament is played each year in his name, as Sean was a true fan and avid supporter of high school sports. On behalf of Abington Bank, we wish to thank the teams, families, and fans from Cape Cod Academy, Rockland High, Sandwich High, and Abington High for taking part in this year's Sean P. Cotter Invitational Tournament. To introduce our starting lineups for our first tournament game, please join me in welcoming the players and coaches from Sandwich High School and Rockland High School. Please direct your attention to the visitors' bench area as we now announce the starting lineup for the Sandwich Blue Knights. Starting at forward, number 2, sophomore Cole Rogers. Starting at guard, number 12, senior Dominic Rooney. Starting at forward, number 20, senior Daniel Oman. Starting at guard, number 1, junior captain Connor Finn. And starting at center, number 15, senior captain Cameron O'Malley. The Blue Knights are led by their head coach, John Samarangas, and their assistant coach, Terrence Murphy. And now, please join me in welcoming the Rockland Bulldogs, starting tonight for Rockland High. At guard, number 14, freshman DJ Casamajor. At forward, number 13, junior Jordan DePina. Starting at guard, number 11, senior captain Gavin Wardwell. Starting at forward, number 21, senior captain Michael Moriarty. And starting at guard, number 23, senior captain Lucas Leander. The Bulldogs are led by their head coach, Fred Damon, and their assistant coaches, Chuck McDonald, Nick LaCory, Dan Bailey, and Matt Anzalone. Ladies and gentlemen, we ask that you all now please rise and remove your hats as we pay tribute to our country and to those who defend our freedom by playing our national anthem. Tonight's referees are Alex Barros, Paul Bortolotti, and Josh Ramsdell. All of tonight's student athletes, coaches, and officials have worked diligently to prepare for this game. The MIAA asks that you please show your appreciation by demonstrating good sportsmanship and respect for all in attendance.
Ladies, gentlemen, boys, and girls, basketball fans of all ages, hello and welcome into the gymnasium here on the campus of Abington High School for Game 1 of the 2023 Sean P. Cotter Invitational Tournament. This one will feature the Rockland Bulldogs and the Sandwich Blue Knights. As always, I'm Mad Dog Matt Nelson. Pleased to be bringing you this game. We'll be joined by the Dr. James Madden, probably somewhere midway through the first half of this one. Last year saw the Blue Knights falling to Abington in Game 2. The Bulldogs fell to Cape Cod Academy in Game 1, so this is a rematch of last year's consolation game. And we are underway. An emphatic tip win for number 21. That is Jaden Diaz, or rather Michael Moriarty for the Bulldogs. And Sandwich on the board first. Moriarty will take a three from the far side. That doesn't go. Daniel Oman with the rebound. Let's meet the rest of the Sandwich Blue Knights starting lineup. Number 1, Connor Finn. Number 2, Cole Rogers. Number 12, Dominic Bruni. Number 15, Cameron O'Malley, along with Daniel Oman. For the Bulldogs, number 11, Gavin Wardwell. Number 13, Jordan DePina. Number 14, Daniel Casamajor. Number 21, Michael Moriarty. And number 23, Lucas Leander. A steal for Dominic Bruni, and he lost it. Good defensive work by Leander to get back. 51 seconds in, 2-0 Sandwich with the game's only bucket. Oman to inbound. He finds Cameron O'Malley. Little jump floater for Connor Finn. It's good. 4-0 Sandwich. Moriarty almost took too many steps with that. Now it's Leander. He skips it over to Casamajor for three. That doesn't go. The rebound is knocked out of play off of Rockland. Sandwich will take over. Connor Finn running point for the Blue Knights, who are in their visiting navy blue kits. Nice Carolina-esque pattern down the side. The Bulldogs in their home white jerseys tonight. Red trim around the navy blue, numbers and lettering. Moriarty in the paint, trying to get it out. Instead, it rolls off his leg and picked up by Cole Rogers. Now it's Oman to the corner for an open three-point attempt for O'Malley. No good. Casamajor the rebound. Rockland still looking to break the ice. Moriarty, three ball. That is air ball down to Jordan DePina, who was held down low. Game 2 will feature Cape Cod Academy and Abington, a rematch of last year's championship game. That is also going to be Abington's senior night celebration, so we'll kick things off about 5 minutes before tip-off. Timeout called, 6:03 to go in the first. 4-0 Sandwich. A slow start to the 2023 Sean P. Cotter Invitational. Abington, the reigning defending winners of last year. The regular season starts to wind down. Start to think about the potential playoff matchups for really all of these teams. Bulldogs will have the inbound. Just a tick north of 6 minutes to go here, first quarter. Rockland still 0 for from the field. Leander will inbound. He's looking for Moriarty. Finds him on the jumping hook reception. Moriarty gets fouled, and he'll be at the line for two. O'Malley called for the game's first foul. Immediate substitution, Gaffney Sullivan's going to come in. Moriarty missing on his first attempt. That is the second foul on Cameron O'Malley. So he comes to the bench. Moriarty's second attempt is good. So Rockland is on the board 4-1 with just under 6 minutes to go. Full court press on for the Bulldogs. Able to break it is Oman. He takes it all the way in. No good. Jordan DePina the rebound for Rockland. Now it's Casamajor. Moriarty in the corner. He's called for steps. Oman to inbound. Now Rockland laying off the press just a little bit. Having to pick up the dribble was Dominic Bruni, and he almost dragged his foot. Instead turns it over to Gavin Wardwell, and he tosses it just behind Jordan DePina into the corner and out of play. Almost 3 minutes in, Rockland still nothing from the field, just the one free throw. Dominic Bruni drives in, and he gets held up by Daniel Casamajor. Oman to inbound. Almost ran out of time there. Bruni on the half-court reception. He hands off to Connor Finn. Now Oman pivots back the other way, gets it back, and he is fouled. It will be at the line for two. Jordan DePina called for the contact, his first personal, second on the team. Missing his first. Daniel Johnson and Dominic White both in for the Bulldogs. Casamajor and Wardwell come out. Good on his second attempt, make it 5-1. Leander gets it back from White. Now it is Johnson with it. Johnson takes the three. That's offline. And an offensive foul on the rebound attempt to push in the paint. Cole Rogers drives in and carried is a word, but a hold as Rogers kind of was held up by two Bulldogs. Now in the corner it is Oman. He drives in off the glass, counted, and one for Daniel Oman. 7-1 sandwich with 4.5 minutes to go. Rockland still looking for their first field goal. Casamajor is going to come back in, replacing Moriarty, who just got his second foul. Good on the free throw attempt for the three-point play was Oman, 8-1. DePina finds Casamajor. Now Leander on the far side. Little shovel pass in for Johnson. Leander gets it back top of the key and then held up. Casamajor able to recover the loose ball. Leander. Now it's Johnson, no good from three. Good hustle for the offensive board. And blocked. Now Johnson is fouled on the rebound attempt. 4, 5, 6 chances there for the Rockland Bulldogs. So Johnson at the line for two. Good on his first. 8-2 now, 6-point lead for the Blue Knights. no good, and then a lane violation called on Rockland. Back in comes Cameron O'Malley, the senior co-captain for Sandwich. Full court man defense for Rockland now. This is Bruni. He hands off to Connor Finn. Finn finds Bruni. He shovels off to Oman. Oman picks up the dribble, gives back to Bruni. He finds a lane in, hard to the basket, no good. Rebound tipped up and eventually out of play off of Leander down low. Loose ball picked up by Casamajor. Bounce pass over to Johnson. Leander shovels it back. Daniel Johnson, sophomore, finds a lane off the glass, doesn't go. Daniel Oman the rebound. 5 minutes in, Rockland does not have anything from the field. O'Malley called for the contact, the push-off. His third foul, so he's going to sit for the rest of the, one would imagine, most of the rest of the first half. Senior captain is dangerously close to fouling out of this game. Casamajor, Leander gets around the steal attempt. Wardwell for three, no good. Hustle to the corner, Casamajor the offensive board, the second chance. Wardwell's floater doesn't go. And is out of play off of the Bulldogs. Connor Finn hands back to Dominic Bruni. That relieves some of the pressure from the Bulldogs. Tip ball. Jumper from the elbow off the glass, no good for Finn. The end of the rebound. Pump fake in the corner for Casamajor. He bounces it back to Johnson. Leander. Now it's Dominic White. Johnson pull up three. Offline. Rebound to Cole Rogers. Another minute goes by without a Rockland field goal. And despite that, strong defense has made it still a two-possession game, technically 8-2. Good hold up there for Dominic Bruni after a couple of Sandwich offensive boards. 10-2. The Blue Knights are the first team to double digits. Floater for Leander doesn't go. The offensive rebound, putback attempt, no good. Fouled in the act of shooting was Dominic White. He'll be at the line for two. White's first attempt is good. A 7-point deficit now for Rockland. Couple more substitutions. Gerald Ellison making his way in for the first time this game. Casamajor tipping the rebound. Eventually coming down with it is Ellison. Casamajor drives in, floats it behind the backboard. Ellison in the right place to grab that. Pull up three from the top of the key. In and out. It was halfway down for Jordan DePina. You almost can't believe that. It was halfway down. .34 seconds on the shot clock here. Casamajor, now it's Ellison DePina. DePina shovels it in for White. He goes off the back of the rim. And Cole Rogers, another defensive rebound. 1 minute to go in the first. It's 10-3. Rockland without a field goal. Despite a couple of sequences where they had 3 or 4 offensive rebounds as DePina's called for the block. Sixth foul on Rockland. There's the 7th. So now that'll be a 1-and-1 shooting situation for the Blue Knights. For a pretty long time, Sandwich will be in a bonus. All of the second quarter. Hitting the first attempt. No good on the second attempt. Casamajor with the ball. Casamajor almost traveled instead. The ball finds its way out of play behind the scores table all the way to the Rockland bench. And Coach Fred Damon pleading with the refs for a call there for the contact. He won't get it. Wardwell gives to Casamajor, gets it back. And then tipped and stolen away by Connor Finn. Finn, a nice move, lays it up, doesn't go. Casamajor brings down the defensive rebound, and then his football pass intercepted by Daniel Oman. 3 is good for Connor Finn from the far wing. Lucas Leander to Daniel Casamajor. Now gets it back from Wardwell. 4 seconds. 3 to the corner for a 3. Doesn't go, and the first quarter ends without a Rockland Bulldogs field goal. It's 14-3, Sandwich on top by 11. Just the 3 free throws for Rockland. Almost an unbelievable statistic. Sandwich will be in the bonus for all of the second quarter. 7 fouls committed by the Bulldogs, 5 committed by the Blue Knights. Second quarter about to get underway here at the gym at Abington High School in the 2023 Sean P. Cotter Invitational Tournament. Still waiting for the first shot to go from the field for Rockland. It'll happen at some point. Wardwell bounces it to Leander. Now from the charity stripe. Flipping it up and in, and there you go. It is Michael Moriarty. Little underhanded finger roll on the drive in. Rockland on pace at the end of the first quarter to hit 12 points this game. And here's a steal for Gavin Wardwell. He's in alone, lays it up and in. Watch out, the Bulldogs waking up 14-7. 2 for 2 here in the second quarter. Finn gets blocked down by Moriarty, and Ellison finds the loose ball. Moriarty crosses over, floats it up. That won't go. The rebound tipped out and picked up by Connor Finn. Finn holds up, and an offensive foul called for the push-off. Lucas Leander to Moriarty for the jumper. In and out. Tipped out by Sandwich. Pull-up three for Wardwell is good. And it's a 4-point game, 14-10. Wardwell with 5 points now. This is Camden Murphy, lost it into the Rockland bench. And the Bulldogs will take over. Wardwell another three. That one back rims out. Nobody wanted the rebound. Now all the way in, trying to draw the foul was Rogers, didn't get it. Another offensive chance. Ellison comes up with a block, almost out of play. Circus play now. Daniel Oman comes down with it. He drives in and gets called for the offensive foul. Good work by Gavin Wardwell to draw the call, planting his feet. Moriarty, now Leander. Back to Moriarty, back to Leander. Ellison sticks his hands up and then gets landed on. Watch out in the paint. Travel's going to be the call. And now Brandon Como replaces Ellison. Dominic Bruni, Oman, three is blocked. Leander fighting for the loose ball. And then a double dribble called on Lucas Leander. Fred David not impressed with that travel. Or with Leander not realizing that it was a travel. Moriarty thought about the pull-up three, pump faked. Now Wardwell will take it. That comes up short. And a push called on Sandwich in the paint on the rebound attempt. Cole Rogers called for his second. Back in comes Connor Finn. I think Rogers is getting some medical attention here on the Sandwich bench. Meanwhile, it's a one-possession game. How about that? 14-12. Moriarty, long pull-up two is good. And it's tied. Timeout called by John Simorangas, the head coach of the Sandwich Blue Knights. 5 minutes remain in the second quarter. Rockland has stormed back 14-14. We're all knotted up in game one of the Sean P. Cotter Invitational Tournament. We're back after this. Daniel Oman to inbound. He gets it back as Rockland trying to work the press again. Oman shovels down low. Nice play to get it to Gaffney Sullivan. Leander will drive in, cuts back out. Moriarty at the top of the key. Wardwell takes the three and nails it. Rockland has the lead, 17-16, after not hitting a shot from the field in the first 8 minutes. Moriarty comes up with a steal in the paint. He is a nice pass down low to Brandon Como. And now a 3-point lead. Floater doesn't go. Basketball, a game of runs. Leander finds Moriarty. Wardwell, some space for another three. That one comes up short. Daniel Oman charging in, scoops it up and in. 19-18. Buckle up, we get a game. Wardwell with some space. Leander. Back to Gavin Wardwell. His skip pass over to Moriarty. He puts it off the window and in. Halfway through the second, 21-18 Sandwich. And an offensive foul called on Sandwich. Finn called for his third. So now both captains of the Blue Knights have 3 personal fouls. That was the 9th committed by Sandwich. So here goes Lucas Leander. He finds Daniel Johnson. 3 for Moriarty. That back rims out. The rebound to Cole Rogers. Rogers drives in, and Moriarty's going to get called for the block there. The mid-air contact. Ellison's going to come back in. Moriarty's third foul. No good on his first attempt. Ellison replaces Moriarty. Good on his second attempt to make it a 2-point game. 21-19 Rockland. 3:10 remains here in the second quarter. Wardwell had some space, thought about the three. Now Leander. Down low on the high-low. Ellison can't put up the shot, out of play, off of Rockland. Press on for Rockland. Leander tips it out of play. Second attempt. Press broken. Dominic Bruni drives in, holds up, and puts it high off the window and in. Underneath Ellison, who is slow to get back into the play, and then blocked, scooped in still, but it goes to Leander. Now in the corner was Johnson. He puts it off the glass and in. 23-21. Bang, bang sequence there. Leander from behind almost committed the reach. .220 to go here in the first half. Both teams in a bonus. Finn gets tripped up and the block's going to be called, I believe, on Taryn Williams. No, they're going to get Ellison again. Good on his first attempt. Both teams now each with 9 fouls. They'll go on the second attempt, and Johnson stepped on the end line. Brandon Como is going to come in replacing Daniel Johnson. Down low, a nice play to Gaffney Sullivan. Sandwich back on top, 24-23. Wardwell drives in, throws it off of the leg of Sullivan, and then dual possession is called, and the ball will be in favor of Sandwich. Leander tipping it out of play again. Able to get it into Dominic Bruni. Murphy lost the handles. Has to give it back to Bruni. His jumper is good. 1:35 to go, 26-23. Wardwell almost traveled. Leander will take the floater, doesn't go, gets his own rebound, and then it's ripped out, and a foul as Ellison got thrown down to the floor. They're going to call Ellison for the foul. His second. And now a double bonus situation for Sandwich. Four-point lead now for the Blue Knights. Two for two. 5-point lead for Sandwich. Now Leander to the corner for White. Slapped down, picked up, however, by Como. DePina, Leander, now it is White. His bounce pass for Como. Another foul called. Basket's good for Como. That's the 10th foul committed by Sandwich. One minute to go, 28-26. Perfect timing where you're now joined by the Dr. James Madden. Doc, at halftime I'll tell you what you missed. A travel called.
I didn't miss the travel call.
So basically, the Bulldogs did not score anything from the field the first 8 minutes of the game.
And they're still in it down by 2?
They had a lead.
If you're a Rockland fan, you'll take that.
It was 12-3 at the end of the first. 3 free throws connected for the Bulldogs. The second quarter, Gavin Wardwell came alive, hit a couple of threes. And here we are in a 2-point game with 33 and some change left in the second quarter. Both teams in a double bonus. Every captain except for Lucas Leander has 3 personal fouls.
So I missed a lot is what you're telling me.
A lot of action here in the 2023 Sean Cotter Invitational.
Just as we like it here at Abington High School, though.
Of course, the rematch of last year's consolation game. Shot clock off, 25 seconds to go. All knotted up, 28-28, a three, that's long. And the rebound brought in by Leander, who is blanketed by the defender. That is Jaden Diaz, the 8th grader. And Coach Fred Damon, who has been quite upset at times tonight, James. Calls a timeout to save the possession with 16 seconds left.
If you're looking for a coach that's going to show emotion, Coach Damon is at the top of your list, because Coach Damon, he's been coming to Abington High for years, as every Rockland coach does. The Rockland-Abington rivalry still lives long, but Coach Damon will show as much intensity and as much passion as any coach in the South Shore League, but he gets his players to play with as much passion as he has when he coaches, so it brings out the best in the Rockland Bulldogs.
Well, that's what it was. It was a very fiery speech at the end of the first quarter. After putting up just the 3 free throws, nothing from the field. A couple of possessions where they had 4, 5, 6 chances offensively after a couple of offensive rebounds. Just couldn't get anything to fall.
And like we said, if you're tied at this stage in the game with a first quarter like that, you'll take that 10 times out of 10. Especially Rockland, we saw them earlier this year. They played the Green Wave. It was a tough battle. The Green Wave ended up winning by, I think it was 6 or 7. So Rockland is a team that can grind, a team that can fight hard, and they're doing so tonight.
Always is a tight game between Rockland and Abington. Tyler Boehner into the game for the first time. He inbounds to Lucas Leander. Watch, the shooter is Wardwell. He's streaking to the far wing now. Moriarty at the elbow, drives in, floats it up and in with 5 to go. 1 second, a high rainbow shot will back rim out at the buzzer. And believe it or not, Rockland's got a lead at the break, 30-28.
And on their last possession, that was a beautifully designed play by Coach Damon, finding their top scorer. Michael Moriarty has been their leading scorer this season, one of the top scorers in the South Shore League. And Moriarty, a 2-sport star athlete, was also the quarterback of their football team, which we all know was a very good football team at that. So Moriarty knocks it down, gives Rockland a 2-point lead. And like you said, in a game where, you know, they go into the locker room and they're up 2, they're feeling good about themselves. So Sandwich is just going to need to keep battling back and find a way to win this game and move on to the championship game on Wednesday night.
How about this? The Bulldogs outscoring the Sandwich Blue Knights 27-14 in the second quarter.
27 points in the second quarter is ridiculous. Almost as ridiculous as 3 points in the first quarter. But, hey, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Rockland finished the first half with some promise, with some poise, and lead by 2 going into the break, looking to build off that and secure a win and maybe, just maybe, have an Abington-Rockland rematch Wednesday night.
One can only hope. 30-28 at the break. The Rockland Bulldogs have a 2-point lead. Stay tuned. We've got second half action for you right after this. Hello and welcome back into the gymnasium here at the campus of Abington High School for second half action in Game 1 of the 2023 Sean P. Cotter Invitational Tournament. It is the Sandwich Blue Knights trailing, that's right, the Rockland Bulldogs 30-28 entering the third quarter of action. I'm Mad Dog Matt Nelson, joined alongside the Dr. James Madden. Doc, this is not what you ordered. 0 for 12 from the field, 9 of those 12 attempts were from 3 in the first quarter for Rockland, but they outscore Sandwich in the second quarter 27-14.
So like we said before the break, if you go into the half after the first quarter that you had, if you're Rockland, you'll take a 6-point loss. If you're losing by 6 points, much rather in the scoring column leading by 2 points, 30-28. And like, I was obviously a little late to this one, so I'm kind of going into this quarter blind, but the way you made it sound is, you know, Rockland's very fortunate to be winning and to even be in this game. So, you know, if you're Coach Damon, you're very happy with your position. You just got to build off your second quarter momentum and finish this one off.
Little familiarity between these two teams. They played in Game 3 of last year's Cotter tournament. After Rockland fell to Cape Cod Academy and Sandwich was defeated by the Abington Green Wave, here's Moriarty streaking in. A nice move as he was falling out of play to spin back around and throw it up underhanded.
And that's a tough finish, like you said. Nice finish there at the rim by Moriarty. Moriarty has scored, from what I've seen, some pretty tough buckets for Rockland. Has been their leading scorer this season. And he comes up with he pokes the ball free. So Moriarty is going to have to continue the Rockland momentum into this third quarter and help them finish this one off to get into the championship game Wednesday night.
No, very interesting situation in the first half. It was a very physical game. The refs let a lot go, but in the same token, each team was in the double bonus at the end of the first half.
And when I got here, I saw 10 and 10, so it just seemed like a physical game. And if it's February basketball, both teams are fighting for their positions in their tournament brackets and their power rating systems. Whatever it may be, they're trying to end the season. Even if you're not in the playoffs, trying to end the season on a high note and end the season the right way. So, playing with physicality, playing with a lot of passion in February as we head to March, and everyone knows what happens in the basketball world in the month of March.
Connor Finn, Cameron O'Malley, the two Sandwich co-captains, each have 3 personal fouls, as does Michael Moriarty. A 3 is rattled home by Gavin Wardwell. He's got 3 shots from deep that have fallen so far tonight. .35 to 35-point lead now for Rockland. Good stretch by Bruni to keep the ball in Sandwich possession. The shot doesn't go. And Brendan Como, who had a big 3 earlier in the game, comes down with the rebound. Now Moriarty pump fakes, shovels it down low, and blocked from behind by Cole Rogers.
I think Moriarty hesitated a little bit more than he should have there. I would have liked to see him go up with it off the glass and, bank it home for Rockland, but he did the smart thing. He dished it off to Como, but Como was unable to get the possession cleanly and ended up getting blocked.
Good shovel pass, and then Oman finished. Now Leander from behind, and Coach John Samarangas wants to know, where's the hit? Do you agree with the call?
I think it's a good call on the floor. I think Leander got a lot of ball there. I think he just made, he's a defensive back on the football field. I think he made a defensive back-minded play, got back in transition, and made just a stellar defensive play for the Bulldogs to save a easy bucket for Sandwich.
Loose ball. Moriarty and Leander got tied up for it. It's still loose. 2 Bulldogs diving on top of it. Stop the madness they do. 2 Bulldogs were wrapped up around it, and that's where you get the held ball. Nobody from Sandwich had a hand in on that when the whistle blew.
2 Rockland Bulldogs drew the jump ball, and I think if they have more than 3 timeouts remaining, maybe if they've only used 1 at this stage in the game, they use a timeout, but they don't want to be sitting with 2 timeouts remaining this early in the third quarter.
That was a circus play. Talk about the football field. That was a rainy game, a fumble, and nobody can pick it up.
We've seen a few of those.
35-32, 4:40 to play here in the third quarter. 3, nothing but bottoms for Connor Finn.
Finn, just a junior captain on this roster, young but has leadership and will be obviously a big part of their nucleus next season. Ties it up at 35, a beautiful stroke from Connor Finn.
Wardwell lost it off of his knee. And then a lot of contact, no call. Leander got knocked down.
On Rockland's last offensive possession, I thought Rogers may have fouled. I think that was Leander with the ball, but no foul call on the floor. Coach Damon was pleading for a foul call, so I think Cole Rogers gets away with a foul call on that end of the floor.
Wardwell's shot was not blocked, but came up well short. Now it's Cole Rogers. Finn, now Daniel Oman. Nice pass along the baseline. A lot of contact and a foul called from behind. Again, very physical. The refs letting a lot of it go. Leander called for the hit. Just the first foul here in the second half.
after a first half that was riddled with foul calls.
Missing his first was Dominic Bruni. Bruni's second attempt. He is good. So Sandwich has a 3-point lead here, 38-35. Just about 3.5 remaining here in the third quarter. Leander drives in, stops, and pops off the back of the rim. The rebound to Daniel Oman. Oman far side. Spinning hook doesn't go for Cole Rogers. And Wardwell might have cut an elbow on the way down as he's checking his chiclets. Moriarty. Wardwell might be leaking a little bit. He seems to think he has a bloody nose. He's wiped it a couple times now. He's got the ball. Wardwell drives in, pulls up. His shot for two doesn't go. The rebound to Daniel Oman. Wardwell still checking his nose.
Yeah, and it looks a little red around there, but no blood's leaked out. I think the referees would be on top of that. Obviously, they have to stop play if there's any blood seen. But no, it doesn't appear that Wardwell is bleeding.
Goes in for another wipe, but it doesn't look like there's any blood there. You're right.
Maybe just aggravated it or sensitive area for him. But it looks like, no blood. So we continue play here at Abington High School.
Wardwell with it, takes the three and drains it.
No problem for Wardwell. Beautiful stroke from beyond the arc, knocks it down, ties the ball game at 38.
Foul called in the paint. End of the third quarter, we'll preview the second game of the Cotter tournament. Rematch of last year's championship game.
Which was a fun one.
A little bit of fireworks.
A little bit of a new roster. Some returning players for Cape Cod Academy, some new players as well. They had Jaden Greenleaf last season, who was a terrific player. Kelvin Danforth, who was, a force to be reckoned with in the paint. And some returning guys like Trey Merritt. They have Tamar Washington and Thomas Brissett, who can knock down the three balls. So, Coach Rose, they always have a tough squad out of the Cape, and they always give the Green Wave trouble whenever we do see them at some point down the road. So it should be a fun one to open the Sean Cotter tournament for both teams.
Will also be Abington's senior night celebration. They have 7 seniors, which is shocking considering they graduated 8 last year.
And talk about a roster turnover. Green Wave, aside from,
losing 15 players over 2 years.
And last season's game between Cape Cod Academy, aside from, I think, Connor Pease, off the top of my head, I think, a complete roster turnover for the Green Wave. Hunter Maxwell as well. So, new faces for both teams. Players have stepped up for both teams respectively. Cape Cod Academy having a solid season down the Cape, down in Osterville.
Wardwell. Bounce pass down low for Casamajor.
Looks like Wardwell got away with a travel there. No call. And
Moriarty drains the pull-up three. And an immediate timeout called by Rockland. $1:25 left here in the third, 41-39.
That seems to be always what happens when you feel a travel call or some sort of call like that could go the other way. Wardwell may have traveled on the catch from Moriarty, gives it right back to Moriarty. Moriarty knocks down the three, and it ends up costing Sandwich. And now Rockland leads by 2, 41-39.
So Green Wave featuring game 2 here, coming off a victory in the second annual Don Byron Classic over the Oliver Rams Tigers. Tyler Stady led the effort in that one, James.
Stady, man. Those two freshmen, Stady and Kingston Maxwell, what they've done for the Green Wave is just freshmen has been surreal. I mean, the poise they show, And, you know, they go on the road to a place like Rockland, to a place like Norwell, where there's a hostile environment, and they go out there and they play not only good basketball, but they play great basketball for the Green Wave. Speaks volumes of who they are as players, who they are as young men, and doing terrific things not only this year, but for years to come for the Green Wave. Tyler Stadium in particular, 30 points the other night in their win over Oliver Ames, which was a big one. And the Green Wave, you know, have 2 more games left in the regular season, and they're going to get ready to go on a little bit of a run in the postseason and try. Who knows? You know, the sky's the limit once you're in the postseason. Once you make it, anything can happen.
Back underway here. $1:15 to go in the third quarter. 2-point Rockland lead. Connor Finn now to the corner for Rogers. Rogers drives in, floats it up, can't get the bounce. Ohm on the offensive board, and he's fouled on the way back up.
And I remember one thing last year when I noticed with Sandwich was when the Green Wave faced them in the first round was they loved the three-point ball. And I've only been here for a quarter, so there's not too much to take out of it. But it seems to me as they kind of like going down low because they have a bit of a bigger team than they did last year. They had one sharpshooter from the outside who had, you know, an off night against the Green Wave, Logan Murphy. He's now at Tabor Academy, but they have a bigger team now. Cameron O'Malley, then they have Cole Rogers down low, and Connor Finn, who's a guard, has been quite possibly their best player tonight. But, you know, I've noticed that they have a very different game plan this season than compared to last.
Tabor Academy, the pride of the ISL.
Beautiful campus down in Marion, Massachusetts. One of the top sailing programs in not only New England, but all over the country at the prep school level. As you can imagine, being situated on the ocean.
Sailing's my favorite high school sport.
It has to be, right? How many teams do you think have sailing around the South Shore? Not many.
I would think it would be limited to Tabor Academy, maybe Thayer, another ISL school over in Braintree. Wardwell takes the long ball and drains it again just before the buzzer. So it's 44-42. Rockland retains their 2-point edge here at the end of the third quarter.
Wardwell, he's had a terrific third quarter, and from what you said, got them back into this game in the first half. Wardwell is, you know, he got a little dinged up early on in the third quarter, battled through it, and started knocking down some big shots in a game where it's kind of been back and forth, especially in the third quarter. Rockland, like you said, started off very slow, but lead by 2 entering the fourth quarter. And, you know, in crunch time, this is where it counts. This is where you're going to have to make your shots. Wardwell's going to have to continue to make his three-point shots. Moriarty as well. Leander, you know, not their best shot maker, but he impacts the game a lot more than scoring. So Rockland in a good position. So is Sandwich. Sandwich, you know, Connor Finn played real well in that third quarter, keeping them in this one. And Rockland heads into the fourth quarter, up 44 to 42.
Of course, you mentioned Tabor Academy. I got to mention, of course, my full-time job over at Stonehill. One of my work study students, a member of the Skyhawk baseball team, a graduate of Tabor Academy, the starting center fielder Sam Parks, former Seawolf. Great mascot name.
Well,
Seawolves.
Well, you know, when you're on the water, it has to be something related to the sea, and they do great things down at Tabor Academy. I mean, they have a beautiful campus, a great athletic program, great academics. Not much to complain about down there.
Sam Parks and the Skyhawks baseball team gets started this coming weekend. Friday night, they're at Tarleton State in Texas.
Stephenville, Texas. A beautiful place of the country, one could say.
2 hours outside of Dallas. Following week, they're out at Kansas, where they'll take on the Kansas State Wildcats and Army West Point.
The Sunflower State taking a trip over to Kansas on Thursday morning, as a matter of fact. Looking forward to that. Not going to Kansas State, going to the real Kansas school, the Kansas Jayhawks.
Careful, that might trigger some folks.
No shade at
You saying blue and red is better than purple?
No shade at any Kansas State fans watching back at home. We love all schools in Kansas, just prefer some over others. they've actually built together a nice basketball season this season, Kansas State.
Moriarty had a chance for the pull-up three. Instead gets blocked by Oman. The loose ball out to Jordan DePina, who drains the three.
Rockland knocking down some outside shots when it matters most. We've seen Wardwell knock down some clutch threes to keep him in it. DePina knocks one down there. Up by 3 with 6.5 to play.
Corner three, Rogers, no good.
I think now that I said Sandwich isn't shooting many threes, they're going to shoot only threes in the fourth quarter.
Exclusively. Moriarty takes the triple, no good.
Just to make sure that the announcer's jinx lives on.
It's a 3-point Bulldog lead, 47-44.
May have had Cole Rogers in the corner for an open 3 look, on the block, anything.
Three ball, no good for Sandwich. Rebound to Casamajor. Moriarty finds White. His jumper off the top of the backboard looked out of play, not called.
Casamajor, just a freshman on this Rockland roster.
Another sweet jumper, this time from the near side elbow for Wardwell.
Wow, I'm not sure I agree with that foul call. Moriarty understandably not happy with it. Coach Damon, like we said, loves to show his passion on the sidelines. Showing it now. Unhappy with the foul call on the floor. Michael Moriarty picks up the foul. And that will be his 4th personal. So, you know, Michael Moriarty has been very important for Rockland this season, with him in foul trouble, having to head to the bench. In a 5-point game, Sandwich has an opportunity to maybe get back in this one and break it open a little bit.
A lot of confusion here. Just under 5 minutes to go here in the 4th. Leander pivots. Johnson down low, count it, and the foul.
And that's a costly swing for Sandwich. Sandwich had a very open look from Cameron O'Malley. He didn't connect on the bunny. And then on the other end, you had, who's that? That's Daniel Johnson, knocked down the and one with a chance to make it an 8-point game and break this game open with 4.5 to play. Daniel Johnson, another one of the members of on this young Rockland team. They have some seniors, but they also have a lot of youngsters. Brandon Camo, another sophomore. Casamajor, like we said, a freshman. So Joseph Leduc, also, I don't think we've seen him tonight, but another sophomore for Rockland.
Dominic Bruni nailing the 3 to cut the lead back to 5 now. Jordan DePina answers with a triple of his own.
DePina says, whatever you can do, I can do better. DePina's knocked down a couple clutch shots with Wardwell, who's been their best outside shooter tonight on the bench. DePina stepping up big. Rockland now leads by 8.
Spinning shot for Rogers falls. Leander with 3:45 to go, 6-point Rockland lead. DePina, another 3. Watch out. The junior has caught some fire beyond the arc. A timeout called by Rockland.
In this second half, Rockland's gone through phases where one player just kind of takes over the game. First it was Moriarty at the beginning of the third quarter. Then for the rest of the third quarter was Wardwell. And then now for the majority of the fourth quarter, it's been DePina. DePina with his third three-pointer of the quarter, pushing this Rockland lead up to 9. And, Rockland looks primed to move on to Wednesday night's championship game. And like we said, who knows? Maybe have a rematch, maybe have another shot at the Abington Green Wave.
James, 55 points in 2.5 quarters for Rockland.
Like we said, the outside shooting, they've started to hit shots. Like you said, hadn't hit a field goal after the first quarter, had 3 points at the free throw line. And after this game, if you do come away with this victory, you go into the locker room and say, hey, we don't want to start out in a position where we don't hit a field goal in the first quarter, but the fact that you battled back, the fact that you were this resilient after a very bad first quarter speaks volumes of who this team is and how gritty they are, and how tough to beat they are, because even when they're not on their A game, they still find a way to get back in it, still find a way to win.
Well, how about this? The two other teams, right? They were scouting in the first half before they went to the locker rooms to get changed. They saw 12-3 nothing burger at the end of the first quarter. Then they went into the locker rooms to get changed for game 2, and all of a sudden we've got what's turning into a classic finish, 58-49.
They really caught fire, especially at the end of that second quarter. Like you said, put up 27 points in the second quarter, and you look at the box score at the score at halftime, you say 30-28. That's a standard game, but how they got there wasn't so standard. 3 points in the first quarter, 27 in the second, and like I said, it's not about how you start, it's how you finish, and the Rockland Bulldogs have finished strong after a lackluster first quarter.
Meanwhile, the other two teams, Cape Cod Academy and Abington, they're actually going to have to go back and watch 3 quarters worth of game film.
Yep, exactly. Just wash out that first quarter and say, that's a lost cause, because that's not who Rockland is. And you look at their record, they have a solid record. So, teams have off nights shooting, but they've battled through it. They found a way to start knocking down shots like Leander, DePina, and that was Wardwell and DePina. And, Moriarty, I just want to say, him off the dribble is very unguardable because of how big he is. He's a bulky kid. Has a big frame, and he's fast off the dribble and blew right by Cameron O'Malley and got to the rim. Now is at the free throw line after drawing the foul. I just want to ask you a question. What are your thoughts about that All-Star game last night? If you watched any of it, I don't know if you've seen highlights on Twitter or whatever, but some coaches saying it's the worst game of organized basketball in the history of the sport.
I saw exactly one highlight. I did not watch the game. The only highlight I saw was Jaylen Brown hitting like a 25-foot three-pointer from the NBA logo. Now, there was no reason for him to shoot a 25-foot three at that moment in the game.
There's not really a reason for him to play, coming with facial fractures. He had a mask on, but
there was like 6 minutes left in whatever quarter they were in. It wasn't a shot clock thing because it was a fresh shot clock off an inbound. And he just shot up like a 30-footer.
And then another Celtic, Tatum, ended up winning the All-Star Game MVP, setting the record for most points in an All-Star game. Yeah, basketball fans around the globe weren't too happy with that performance last night in Salt Lake City. Coach Zimmerangus visibly unhappy with the officiating crew tonight. They trail by 9, 60-51. Just over 2 to play.
It's been an interesting one. Now, to their credit, they let a lot go. They let the boys play in the first quarter. That being said, they were still double-digit fouls. Some things like that hit down low, you can't let go.
And, in the fourth quarter, you look at the foul totals, it's 5 and 3, or just turned to 5 and 3, and now you have O'Malley at the line. So, take away that second quarter, there's not many team fouls in this ball game. So,
first shot good for Cameron O'Malley. That was the third foul on Casa Major. in and out. It was halfway down. Now, that was perhaps the craziest moment, James, of the first quarter. Moriarty goes all the way to the rack and gets fouled. With like a minute left in the quarter, I started to think that they could actually go a full 8 minutes without a field goal. I think it was Wardwell hit a three. It was halfway down and bounced out. 3 bounces off the inside of the rim. It was halfway down and then just said, nope, back out.
It was just one of those quarters for the Bulldogs.
There's a lid on this basket.
And every team has those quarters. It's just how you overcome them once you start to knock down some shots, and Rockland's done a fine job at that. Moriarty has done a great job getting to the rim. He's been to the free throw line a lot tonight. So pushes their lead up to 10, and a little bit of a swap between Moriarty and Camo for defensive purposes. Don't want Moriarty to pick up his 5th foul, in foul trouble with 4 now. So Rockland looking good, looking like they'll move on to the championship game on Wednesday night.
59 points in 3 quarters, and now O'Malley drains a 3, and it ain't over yet, James.
Nope, O'Malley, keeping the sandwich Knights in this one. Knocks down a long 3-pointer, especially for a big man. Keeping them in at 62-55, 7-point lead for Rockland, but, by no means is it over. And Sandwich is going to need to string together a nice little run here, but, we've seen crazier things happen in the basketball world, so you can't count on anyone at this stage of the game.
Game 2 will tip off about 15 minutes after the end of this one. Senior Day for the Green Wave will take place just before that. Meanwhile, the hockey team in action. Big game for Brian Woodford's squad. They're over at Rockland, taking on the Ashland Clockers.
The Clockers, one of the best nicknames in all of sports. I saw assistant coach Shane Murray earlier today, and he said, the buzz around the locker room is that they'd have to have this one because they're in the playoffs regardless, but they want to host a playoff game because you'd much rather play a game at Rockland Rink than have to drive 2 hours on the road to wherever you may go. So, you win this, you pretty much solidify hosting at least one playoff game. So, a big game for the Green Wave, and, they've been made for big games. They've won big games in the past, so should be a fun one over at Rockland Rink.
Just one last game for them before the playoffs start. They'll be in action Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. Another big-time opponent.
Oh, Quincy, yep. That's their senior night as well. Quincy, a big city team. I think Zach Buchagras told me that they had 19 seniors on their roster last year. So talk about a roster turnover. So I think they're struggling this season, but I think it's going to be their last game of the season. So any team in the last game of their season is dangerous because you don't want to end the season off on the wrong note. You want to end it off with a win and, maybe play spoiler alert for the Green Wave. So Abington, looking to finish off their regular season strong and get ready for playoff time.
The presidents of Quincy High School. I actually was talking to someone about the Quincy presidents, and by extension the North Quincy Raiders. They actually asked me why Quincy High School is nicknamed the Presidents.
God, that's a bogus question.
I honestly thought they were joking.
I have another question. Who got to determine who was the presidents, whether it was Quincy or North Quincy? But I'm assuming just because Quincy, it doesn't have anything in it. It's just Quincy, North Quincy, but a little bit of disrespect to North Quincy.
Now, they could be the presidents and the vice presidents.
That would be something else.
The winner of the Thanksgiving football game, every year the loser is the vice presidents for that year.
They just keep switching off every year.
These are ideas that should happen. We'll get a petition going. A lot of contact. Moriarty, no call. Now DePina is almost called for the backcourt. Moriarty throws up a circus shot. Shot clock violation doesn't go, and Coach Simorangus rightfully wants an explanation. That didn't hit the rim or anything, James. That should have been a 35-second violation.
I thought from my vantage point it hit the rim, but I mean we have different angles. I thought it just grazed the rim and then ended up rebounding by it's not on my roster, but this young man that's at the free throw line.
That is Taryn Williams, the junior.
Taryn Williams, yep.
Wearing
So
number 12.
Williams came up with the offensive rebound, and
Moriarty, the hard work, commits a travel sliding on the floor, not called. And now DePina double teams.
he was swarmed in that corner. Some great pressure from Sandwich. No foul call, like we said. Kind of let them. The referees have kind of let them play in the second half here.
Coach Damon was just laughing on the bench at that call. And now an immediate timeout. With 16 seconds to go, it's now a 7-point ball game. What do you make of that play on the sideline right in front of the Rockland bench?
I think the way they've called this second half, they have to let it go because I don't think there was a lot of contact, just some high pressure defensive pressure. And I don't think it's a foul call. DePina was unhappy, Coach Damon unhappy, but the way they've called this second half, I think those are the types of calls you need to let go just to have some parity and have some consistency. But I'm sure if you're on the Rockland bench or the Rockland sidelines, you're on the other end of that. But Rockland's still in good position. Shouldn't harm them whatsoever. Lead by 7, 16 seconds to go. Sandwich is gonna pull off a Tracy McGrady where he scored 13 points in 30 seconds type of comeback in this one.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
At this stage of the season, we're approaching March Madness. You can't count on anybody. We've seen crazy things in the basketball world. We've seen crazier things. So, never say die, right?
We do have to give a shout out to whoever designed Sandwich's uniforms. I love the paisley look down the side. Little Carolina style, UNC. A 3. No good offensive board, and good job by, was that Leander down low? It was DePina. Held ball, Sandwich retains with 10 seconds.
And they're going to need a quick hitter here, and after they forced a turnover, they got a decent look, but couldn't connect on it.
3 comes up wide, Moriarty the rebound. That should do it, and it will. DePina will take a buzzer-beating 3, and it rims out. Rockland's advancing to the championship game. They scored 61 points over the final 3 quarters, 64 to 57. 7 points, the final margin of victory, James.
Yeah, and like you said, Rockland, looked doomed at the beginning of this one. They scored 3 points in the first quarter. Didn't hit any field goal attempts, but they grinded through it. They battled through it and took over the game. Starting at the beginning of the second quarter, Wardwell was a big factor in that, knocking down some big shots. And when it got close in the fourth quarter, we had Jordan DePina also knocking down some big threes and keeping Rockland in the lead and making sure Rockland finishes this one off and gets to the final game, the championship final on Wednesday night.
Well, we'll clear the floor, clear the stands, and do it all again in about 20 minutes. Game 2, Cape Cod Academy. And Abington, the winner, will face the Rockland Bulldogs at 7 o'clock on Wednesday evening in the championship game. The loser will face Sandwich in the consolation game at 5:30. Until then, 61 to 50, 64 to 57. The final score, Rockland comes out on top in game 1. Stay tuned. Game 2 coming up. We'll see you next game.